Good morning, friends of the channel. Hello. It seems we are starting with the video from the end. Instead, we are not starting from the end, but today we are going to do a tutorial that you have been asking me for a very long time because I have been finding on the I Love Magic Paint group, our Facebook support group, questions like, I have already painted with Magic Paint 3 years ago, 4 years ago, this piece of furniture. It is still intact, still healthy, but I want to change it. I want to put it in another room. The color no longer fits. I have changed the curtains and this color doesn't fit anymore. Basically, you want to do a makeover because you're tired of the color. Okay, you can do it. Today we'll show how to recolor something you've painted before. These are 2 MDF nightstands that Ilaria and Marco, 2 of my closest friends, purchased from me approximately 6 years ago. They were pieces that I sold new at the time. They have the dresser, but they like it like that. And they want to change them because they moved, changed the bed, the curtains, and a couple of things, and they no longer fit. While in the old room, they looked good. This piece, found in France at a flea market, is odd and unusual. It almost looks like a tabernacle, a very particular piece of furniture. It almost looks like a church piece. I got it for pennies, really. I didn't really pay much for it. It was spray painted, so it was spray painted with a spray gun, so the enamel was sprayed on, and probably the sealant, if they even applied it, was sprayed on. Here I catch a glimpse of some pickling, done with a very fine abrasive sponge. And I have to tell you the truth, it's not a bad finish because it's clean. It doesn't have any drips. It's very simple. It almost looks industrial. But this white color has absolutely I don't like it. It has no character. No. So I will do it for me, and I want to make it exactly the same as a makeover I did a few years ago when my Michelangelo was just 3 months old. So a makeover from 3 years ago, using the same technique because I will put them next to each other. While the 2 of them are 2 bedside tables that will be in this new room, and we will study a makeover based on a curtain. There is a lot to do today. Let's go. Actually, the owner of the house gave me carte blanche. Ilaria trusts me a lot. She put all my magic wall shades in the house. She even used pure magic wall for the kitchen wall in the new house. So she is a person who blindly trusts me and my company. So I decided to take a detail of her room, which is her curtain, which she loves very much, which is a curtain with a flowered design and a slightly bluish lucky forest base. Emma and I have done a separate test to achieve the perfect color I want, also because I've seen it in person. We'll create the curtain's background color on this nightstand. They are actually very, very modern people and love things that are quite contemporary but fluid and smooth. They don't like patina. We'll create something sophisticated yet simple and elegant. Emma and I will create the base color, blending Lucky Forest with Monsiur. Then I think we will put flowers on the side or the front because I want to recreate the flowering of the curtain. I want them to look good with it since she loves it so much. So let's start now by mixing the color, finding the perfect shade. Be careful, like we did before. So, take a bowl. It's many years old, but I'm fond of this beautifully ruined bowl. We're starting with Monsiur, are you sure? Emma decided that, even though for me it was more of a Lucky Forest than a Monsiur, we have to start with the Monsiur. Emma, we have to make the first one good to make the 2 of them. I feel that this Monsiur is quite enough. Now, let's go with Lucky. Everything by eye, don't we weigh? No, we don't weigh. Voilà. We are starting to understand what tones come out. I, who already visually have it vividly pictured in my head, will surely get there.
Do you want some more?
Definitely, a drop of green, of Lucky Forest.
Keep going, keep going. Okay, stop.
You know, we may already be there. Can you pass my phone so I can look at the monitor and understand? It might slightly change from the print. Then the trick is also mostly stirring with the brush, because you know that the brush scrapes the bottom well, and so we manage to obtain the perfect shade. Let's zoom into the max. You know, I think it's good. Yes, it looks similar. That's it. Perfect. It should be enough for 2 nightstands, but in my opinion, it's more than enough. Just a tiny issue. I would recommend that with this kind of furniture protected with wax, this is an MDF nightstand painted with paint, I presume enameled, but I think it is also protected with wax to make it more velvety, even though it is very well done. And you can also see the elegant brush stroke. It is best to do one thing. Wash well with ABBA, thoroughly. Also, keep in mind what I am about to say. If we had to solve a problem today that was painting and protecting with wax a kitchen, a table, or something with extremely high wear and tear, I would not have carried on as I am about to do now. So, the steps I'm about to perform now, I'm only doing them because they are very low wear makeovers. They are nightstands. If I had found myself standing in front of a person who had mistakenly painted a kitchen with enamel-type paints or chalk paints and then protected it with wax, I would not have focused on washing with ABBA very well, just as Emma did in this case. I would have taken the paint remover, carefully removed all the old paint, and then proceeded to repaint. Why? Because enamels often chip and peel, and simply because the wax, once it has crystallized, does not come off by sanding. Okay, let's say something. A lot of people say, I'll sand it so I can get some of the grease off. It doesn't work like that. After years, it is no longer greasy, it is crystallized, but the wax is not removed by sanding, and sanding makes it even stronger and shinier. So we are now going to sand, but not to remove the wax, just to remove the lines that have been made in these places, because this nightstand first got a gray base, then some tape with purple, and then some tape with white. I need to remove the grooves of these lines, so I'm going to carefully smooth out the parts where there are lines before painting with my newly created color, okay? But if I had had a kitchen, I wouldn't have washed. If I had had a kitchen with these problems, with wax or high-wear furniture, I'd have used the paint remover. So, let's sand. I've laid the nightstand down, I've taken the knob out of my drawer, and I'm ready to remove this groove that I don't like. Sander, 100 grit sandpaper and mask. Perfect. The groove is no longer visible. As you can see here, there is some MDF, which is essentially just pressed wood powder, or instead here there is a piece of wood. They probably made the leg structure and the back with wood, and not here. It's just wood dust, pressed sawdust, okay? Now, it's nice and smooth anyway. I won't see these brush strokes anymore, and I'm good. They won't even be seen once painted. Let's continue on all the other grooves of the furniture. Here, for sure.
This is the final color.
Almost identical to my apron. So it will be very covering. We only sanded to remove the brush lines because they would have been visible also once we had painted. And since the decoration will no longer be striped, I couldn't possibly keep it, okay? I didn't sand it for any other reason. Let's see if it clings. It clings very well. The color is perfect. And now I will have fun making the whole base the same, beautiful, smooth, and defined on my entire nightstand. If you can manage to make a slightly crossed brush stroke, remember, you absolutely will cover much more and also optimize cost and time. Now, I absolutely will do the edges because I want it to be a well-defined, clean and smooth work. Voila, we apply it on the entire surface. Here too, just as before, if you can manage to do a crossed brush stroke, it turns out to be even better on such a highly glossy surface. Okay? Always remember that the crossed brush stroke cannot always be used. For example, sometimes there are very, very absorbent surfaces. Here it becomes slightly more difficult. But when you have a surface like this, beautiful, smooth, shiny, a crossed brush stroke like the one I'm doing now helps to cover well, 100%. It needs a second coat to get a nice, full, defined color, but I already like it very much. I covered well. I'll do both of them and show you how the first coat turns out after drying. We start with the second coat because obviously you can still see the line underneath. Always remember, when spreading the color on smooth surfaces like this one, but particularly where you can still see underneath, it is essential to do the crossed brush stroke as I am doing now, okay? So please be sure, as you can see here, first one way, then the other way. This will help you a lot to fully cover, do you see? Because you fill all the grooves very, very well. And there you have it. You saw how the line underneath looked before, and you saw that with the second coat we have covered it completely. I always use pure color, especially on glossy surfaces. Today it is essential because, as I repeat, even though I degreased, these were nightstands that were protected with wax at the time. So please always use pure color. We are about to finish the first part of the project. 2 coats of our new color that is somewhere between Lucky Forest and Monsiur. A slightly warmer teal perhaps, yes. I like it a lot, but the color is not yet definitive. Colors become definitive once protected. So either wax or protective paint, okay? But now the color still needs to be hydrated, so it's still a bit dull. We use this beautiful transfer today. It's called Cerulean Blooms. And we use it because we want to provide a common thread, you remember, with the curtain, for which we chose the base color of our nightstands. But we also want to put some flowers that pick up on the curtain, yes, but desaturated, therefore with slightly duller colors, so that they are closer to the curtain, but that they are also, let's say, a nice combination with all the rest of the furniture in the room. Because there's a powder pink bed? Yes, indeed, very light. Everything must be closely matched. This transfer is a bit large, so to avoid wasting it, we'll do this. We will use the bottom part of the transfer for the drawer because we will make it nice and full. One of the top parts will be placed on the side of the drawer, on the nightstand over here. So drawer and side, and then we will do drawer, side, and side again. Anyway, we will use it all, but without wasting it, to optimize as much as possible. Little pieces, yes. We love the fact that we use this upper part, which is where it ends, on the sides, because I don't know, it kind of floats, doesn't it? So we start with the drawers, we take this one out. We have to decide whether to center this one or center the smaller one, the buttercup. But maybe we'll cut it out for something else. What do you say? Shall we center this one? Yes. Okay, we'll cut it. Anything that is not put here won't be wasted, of course. It is always kept. Maybe I'll pull this out a little. It is always kept and used for something else. This far. Okay, make a little cut here so we can see in the middle. Good. And over here too. We make a small cut to see.
I would like this flower to be out. We'll save this part, beautiful, and use it elsewhere.
Let's start adapting this part here. I definitely like it so far. And this is inside, all right. So here too, you can lift it. I don't need to see it anymore. Is this inside? It fits almost everything.
We do this, then decide later.
Oh, look how beautiful it is with the central flower. I would keep that one, you know? What do you think? Everything that is left out, however, must not be wasted, and we should keep it for some other project. It would also be perfect if we used a cutter to trim. With a sharp cutter, so be sure to split the last blade and get it sharp, I'm going to cut the edges. This way, I avoid the risk of wasting some parts. Therefore, I try to do this accurate thing and cut right at the edge, shaping the drawer. Here we go. I have to turn it around a bit because it has a very beautiful shape and it turns here. You know that we must always limit waste as much as possible. Voila. Emma, can you put it in place so we see how it looks? It's beautiful. The most beautiful thing, in my opinion, is that they are different, wonderful, truly spectacular. We are starting to apply the transfer on the sides. Emma has decided, very wisely, to put this masking tape. We want to do something more modern and therefore confine the flower to the side in a rectangular shape. In this way, it remains much more similar to the front of the drawer, which in any case is delimited in the square or rectangle, however, framed to the drawer. It will be a nice common thread this way. Obviously, we try to do everything to optimize the transfers as much as possible, so we don't make it stick to the tape as well. This way, these small leaves can be safely saved and strategically placed where needed. We save them even on the side. Here it is perfectly attached, and these spared little leaves can be used for other projects. Here I will slightly cut at the edge of my paper tape, so I'm sure the transfer won't come off. But this way, I will indeed have a very perfect finish. And here the leaf has taken the perfect rectangular shape. It will be beautiful because it is modern, exactly as we did on the front part of the drawer. So yes, there is the flower, but it stays in this frame. Let's continue on the sides. Now it's time for the protection. I'm applying the protective paint today, not wax, even though these are nightstands for the bedroom, so wax would be enough. But I want a more modern effect. And the satin finish is perfect for this. One trick, when you are working on dark colors, like black dark brown, the vintage, or a color like this, a warm teal, you should do one thing. Since the furniture has been handled, we put our hands on it anyway, because we applied the transfer, take the microfiber cloth and wipe it. In this way, you will be sure to remove any dust or other deposits lint without removing the color, of course. Why do I tell you to do this? Because it is very important, especially because people think that either you sand to make the surface smooth, to remove impurities, otherwise there is no alternative. Instead, wiping with a damp microfiber cloth is a good alternative as it removes residues and slightly smooths out the chalkiness. Now I apply the protective coat with a Maggie brush, and why do I use the Maggie brush and not a brush like the Elizabeth, like the Demon or the King? Because it's a small piece of furniture, and on small furniture I can easily use a brush that doesn't have a reservoir. Do you see? It's a brush without a reservoir, unlike the King, which has a large one. But I keep a sponge nearby. The sponge you can also use to apply the protective paint. I don't lay it out with a sponge, I lay it out with a brush because I want the brush stroke, even if it's very, very light. This little sponge is absolutely indispensable when applying the protective paint on supports that have little legs, many corners. It's fundamental. This method helps me to avoid drops, drippings, or anything else. So I proceed beautifully and peacefully. I spread my protective paint over the surface, you see, without worrying too much about whether or not I can see the brush stroke and the spreading. Like this, nice and smooth, okay? Now, obviously, I make everything perfect with a gentle stroke. Do you see how I use the Maggie? I use this brush gently, almost like a caress. And then, when it's time to check the edges, I wipe them with the sponge. I look for any drip. And I don't actually have any kind of brush stroke. But the sponge also absorbs any accumulation. So it will be much easier not to make any drops. See how precise I am? And there you have it. The brush is not jealous of the sponge, don't worry, so always keep it, this sponge, if you genuinely love perfect smooth things, if you adore perfect finishes. Always remember one rule, however. When applying protective paint over the transfer, never apply 2 coats. If you had wanted to protect this nightstand with 2 coats of protective paint, you should have first applied the protective coat, then the transfer, and then a second coat of protective paint. Why? Because if you apply 2 layers of protective paint on the transfer, the first one protects. The second coat will moisten the first, and it will lift the transfer because the glue is very thin, so it detaches and peels off, okay? So yes to the protection on the transfer, but 1 coat. If, on the other hand, I want to intensify the protection, in this case I simply need to apply a second coat on the top, which is the most used part, the one on which in the evening you put your mobile phone, keys, in short, utility things. So we protect the rest of the furniture with just 1 coat, while on the top I'll apply 2. Even here, you see, I carry one peacefully, fast. I don't worry about doing or not doing drops. I go around my knob so I don't ruin it. But one important thing that you need to understand is that if you always keep the white sponge close, which has an incredible softness, you won't leave marks. It's much easier to protect avoiding marks. Look, and when it comes to going to the edges, I take my little sponge, go over the edge and wipe off any drops, and voila. My work is nice and precise, okay? So if you're into perfect makeover, smooth, perfect protection, you need the right brushes, you need caution, but take the sponge because it helps you not to drip. We are now halfway through the video because the first makeover, meaning recoloring the already colored nightstands, is done. As you can see, they are still slightly damp. In some places they are shinier and in others more satiny because they are still drying. I put them aside and dedicate the day to the makeover of this beautiful piece. Hopefully it will come out perfect like another piece. You will find the link below. You can see it again. I was very small, young, and pretty. Only 2 years, but a lot has changed. Hopefully, even if we use different techniques, therefore different procedures, we will be able to achieve the same result as I did in that makeover. Shall we start with this beautiful furniture? So, having a light base, we are going to take advantage of it. We are not going to make another clear base, but we'll start with half of the work done in the other tutorial with some additions. It's been 2.5 years, we can't repeat the exact same process. So now we take our furniture, we lay it down, we work horizontally because we're going to use powders. We're going to spread the craquelé all over, much more strongly. And then we're going to use salt and magic star to create texture. So we clean the table and lay down the furniture. Emma went outside for a little while with the drawer because it wasn't sliding very much, so she went outside to lightly sand the guides. It's clear that over time it has absorbed moisture and swelled slightly. So I begin our project. Craquelé. This bit won't be enough. I have a jar with some left, so I'll finish it and then open a new one. I use it abundantly, actually, because I want a very crackled textured base today, let's say. I tap it. And I spread it all over quite evenly, but I don't stop there, no. Because now I'm going to do this frame, show you how to spread it, and show you how I make it even more textured. On this rectangle, I've already applied the Craquelé liquid. Now in this glass, I've got a bit of salt. I'm going to lay it down like this. That way the Craquelé will dry and pull down the salt. Okay, the Craquelé is not liquid, it's a gel. And so by drying it, it pulls down the salt. However, I also add a bit of Magic Star powder. This powder helps even more in the next step with vintage rose to have a textured base. We always make use of the Craquelé gel, which, as it dries, makes this powder transition its own on the surface. Now, Emma, help me with an oval brush, a 50, 60, whatever you want, and help me spread the gel Craquelé all over the surface. If you want to help yourself, you can also spread the gel on the surface, let's say a little abundantly, like this, and then go right behind it like this, tapping. I strongly advise you to tap. Why? Because the Craquelé takes a different shape. The crack from the gel actually takes a different shape depending on how the Craquelé gel is spread or tapped. So a crack that comes out of a tapped crackle is a very realistic crack. It is not the classic big artificial crack. So I suggest you keep tapping like I'm doing. Here we go. Don't wait for it to dry. Let's apply it on a small area and continue as I showed you. Salt and powder. To do the other sides, just continue as we've done. So we will turn the furniture on the left side and on the right side and continue like this, spreading salt and powder. It's time to apply the color, vintage rose, because at the time this piece of furniture was vintage rose, and so, no, the other video was vintage rose and now it needs to be finished exactly like the other. I will put a teaspoon of thickening powder just to give it a slight texture, but a little because the furniture is already very textured. And we use the pointed brush. Why do we use the pointed brush? Because you have to go deep into the decorations. That's our feature today, so you don't brush too many times. Why? Because otherwise we take away the Craquelé and instead we want to have a nice velvety surface, applying one coat of vintage rose and covering it perfectly because the Craquelé has to do its thing. But by moving, pressing and brushing over it, we remove the Craquelé and you won't achieve the result. This might be why sometimes it didn't work for you. The moment you wipe the brush and go to moisten the base, you realize that you are also moistening the Craquelé that has dried very well. That moistening could actually cause us to take away the gel, so you have to be very careful. Rather, I'll opt to keep it a bit thicker, you see, and don't go over it again. I don't go back here now. Where I went, I leave it alone. It's very nice the fact that I put salt, because it creates a different texture. Very special. I like it very much. It will indeed help us a lot to achieve a patina soon of a specific type, of a specific level. The vintage rose is always very, very beautiful. It dried perfectly. We left it there all weekend. It was needed though, because the thickness on the furniture is really high anyway. But only with good drying can you see a good craquelé. There, the craquelé keeps working even as you put your hand in and feel it dry. And now up close you will see how deep the cracks are because of the texture created. Beautiful. Now we apply jasmine wax over the entire surface to protect it, and then we start with the patina. For me, it begins one of the most fun steps, because bringing out all these little cracks, the moldings, and the texture provided by the salt and the thickening powder is really a lot of fun. I used the Noyer Claire first today. Remember that these liquid waxes dry slightly faster. So first tip, you don't remove the excess of transparent wax. So we will leave the jasmine wax right there. You put it on a bit thickly and then you immediately massage it in with the brush and only remove what you want. But be careful, we always keep jasmine wax close by too because it acts as an eraser. These steps should not be done when it's too hot. So if it's 2 p.m. in July, we go to a sheltered, cool place. I take a pointed brush to go well into the decorations. I stirred it very well, so watch out, you have to stir carefully. A smooth cotton cloth, and we start with one of the funniest parts, which will highlight all the cracks. It's great. So, I strongly recommend you run some tests to truly understand what you like and how much you enjoy dirtiness, okay? And we remove the excess right away. If you see that you have smudged too much, beautiful, look how the cracks come out, that's exceptional. Such a beautiful crackle is perfection. Now jasmine wax if you want to lighten up fast. Just a quick wipe and you're good. See? This way you slightly remove and create even more texture. To work properly on this type of patina, you need to be organized. Have liquid wax and solid wax close at hand, a smooth lint-free cloth, not a microfiber one, and 2 brushes that you need to work. I prefer the pointed one for the antiquing, for the colored wax, so I go deep, and a normal one because I don't want to go too deep. I don't want to take out what's inside the grooves, but only what's on the surface to lighten it, so a flat brush. I suggest you work on small parts at a time so that you understand how to smooth everything out, but above all, you figure out what you like. Last piece of advice, you shouldn't do this at night. Do it during the day with natural light coming into the house. It's much better because you'll truly realize how the patina looks. To get the perfect patina, the first trick is to press. I see so many people who make beautiful patinas, but they always stay on the surface because they don't push with the brush, they don't go deep enough. Do you see how I insist? Here, this is one of the first tricks. If the patina stays on the outside, it is not deep and therefore does not fully antique where it should. Dirt doesn't stay on the surface, it goes deep. Actually, it's ugly to call it dirty. This is patina. It is a different kind of concept, but you get what I mean. Remember, if the craquelé, as I explained before, doesn't dry well deep down, all the cracks won't come out, so you have to let the paint dry well, because it's very thick, because there's salt, there's a lot of textured powder, it's a bit of a thick patina, a bit of a thick base. Rather take a weekend off, finish it by Friday, and get back to work on it again Monday, the opposite of what you always do. Be sure never to speed up, because otherwise you would see a halfway thing. Here I have a lot of moldings. I have to be careful to go deeper, especially here where there is my flower basket. You see, I try to be a little fast because I have to go deep, do the work properly, but I must not let my wax dry out.
I have to press well where there is more texture and it is not visible.
Now I want to lighten up this part, of course, because I went well deep, but I have to lighten it up a little.
So again, transparent wax. And now I go slowly to work the surface, removing where I want.
If a few grains of salt come off in some places, like here or here, it is even more beautiful, because these are the moments when the patina does its perfect job. Do you see? I'm not taking the abrasive sponge, really. I'm not pressing down hard. I don't need it. I need to show you the beautiful patina, the beautiful crackle. It's all very regal right now, because if the work has been done well, it comes out in a very delicate way. Always remember that if you want it more antiqued, more chipped, you are always right on time. You can always take either the pleasure tool or a chisel or even the abrasive sponge if you like it. It's okay. But today we are working on a patina that is as truthful as possible. And so we want it to come out very natural and realistic. I'm simply going to work a little bit more here where I have the small moldings because I want them to be very delicate. When it peels off a little bit like this, it is beautiful, so I take advantage of it and remove it. The parts I love the most are always the ones with the craquelé, the more antique ones. And here where there is the molding, it is wonderful in my opinion. Moreover, it's fresh. There aren't those classical mermen, nor some mythological animals. I really like it when there are quite simple details made out of flowers. I like it very much. Keep looking at it closely, because right here, where all there are the cracks, it's truly a nice step. I will continue over the structure, and in some places I will also bring out some of the underlying clear base. But we're working on it little by little. By lightening the wax, the first layer of patina already comes out. And in some places, as you can see, the salt flakes off slightly and leaves these specks on the surface. Beautiful. It is then up to us to decide how much to lighten, as always. If you want, either by continuing to scrub with the cloth or by taking the transparent wax again. Now I try with wax. This side is very, very textured. Please, always stay light on the surface, otherwise you risk removing what you have just placed deep down. In some areas, now that the patina is still very soft and not yet finished, we will still have some more steps to do. I am going to scrape it off with the scraper, aka the pleasure tool. Actually, almost nobody likes this noise, but for those who do it, it is nice because the peeling is very nice and natural. I obviously don't go deep, I just go over the outer edges and I do this movement. I do this because it is a tool that only scrapes off some spots and therefore creates this patina that is a little worn but not too much. Then it has different angles, as you can see. In some places it removes more, in others less, and you manage to achieve this effect, which, among the antiquing of the wax, the craquelé and the texture, is extremely enjoyable, very lovely. Look, I proceed just a little bit further here where I have the outer part. And of course, the great thing about this patina today is that it comes out in bits and pieces. It is precisely because salt scrapes off. If we had made a classic patina without putting salt in, it wouldn't have come out like this. I also really like this step because it brings out, again, some of the base color and thus also lightens a bit the final color.
It must be a very delicate process, done slowly, by feeling, yes, but always respecting the rules. When doing this patina work, I suggest you always stand back and watch it from a distance as well.
Because when we get stuck in one spot and don't look from a distance, we don't really understand how far we have come with the antiquing process.
So, a little trick is always to take a step back and look at it from afar as well. On this top, the texture is extreme.
Beautiful. One must also remember, however, not to underestimate the fact that the color is full, so a light pickling will help a lot.
Here too. On the top part, I want to do it just a little. I already like it as it is. It's a shame that this part is high up and can be seen very little. It's beautiful.
This step, in my opinion, is yet another one that you have to do at will. Meaning it is not imperative, but in my opinion it makes a lot of difference. With the Noyer Claire wax, which is an antiquing wax like the Noyer Foncé, but with a slightly more reddish, lighter tone, I am going to create highlights that will warm up the furniture a lot and will create an almost rust-like oxidation. Now look. I take a small brush from the pointy set, one of the larger ones. I drain it well because I always have to put in a little at a time, and I evaluate. There, do you see what kind of reddish rust comes out of that? I even go in some spots and press a bit more because I still want the corners full of this oxidation. Then with my cloth, I slightly remove some where I don't like it so that it is not too noticeable and strong. And then I can also dab, maybe by tapping. Can you see how much this slight shade changes the whole context? How it warms, how it ages. It's a very nice combination to create. But it has to be balanced. Don't put this wax everywhere because otherwise you might as well overdo it. It's just a brush, a touch. Good for corners like here. I bring excess here too because you see, we always want our delicate and textured patina to be there. Look at the difference between this corner, which has the patina with Noyer Claire wax, and this one, which does not have it yet. It changes completely. So watch. You should also go to work here in depth, to give three-dimensionality to the shapes as well. And as before, if there is too much, we remove the excess slightly. This effect is very nice, also because it does not remove the craquelure at all. Rather, it highlights it. It truly does antiquing in a very realistic way. Now I also continue on the rest of the frame because I'm going inside. This reddish shade on vintage rose looks particularly good. I will also do it slightly around some of the curls, and this really brings out the moldings. This makeover is finished. Before we set them up, however, we are pleased to show you all of them. Let's recap today's tutorial. It wasn't meant to show you how good we are at making 2 nightstands and a cabinet with patina. It was meant to make you understand how to behave with furniture that has already been colored. What does it mean? Those were 2 nightstands that had been painted with enamel, cementite, I'm not sure. They were purchased, and we had to sand down the part of the lines, remember? Without adding primer, after washing well with ABBA, we painted with pure magic paint. Then we applied protective paint to protect. Here it was different. This was a cabinet that had already been painted, I don't know whether with enamel or something else. The fact is that I didn't make it, I already bought it that way. It was already white, already clear, and it's a reproduction. We created a patina using textured bases made with magic star powder and salt to achieve this very, as well as vintage craquelé texture, which is perfect for patina. So 2 different pieces of furniture, one very smooth and clean, which will have a different cleaning since it is protected with protective paint. The other one, it's a classic piece that should be handled with care since it's textured and protected with wax. What does it mean that you dust, you don't wash? So in both cases, 2 already colored bases and protected but recolored. So remember, the only cases in which you use paint remover on furniture before being repainted is when, for example, a mistake has been made in the process. What do I know? They told you that it was okay to protect the kitchen with wax, and you did it, you painted with color, and then afterwards you protected the kitchen with wax. Well, in that case, it's no good. You have to remove the paint. Or the paint has come off on a table, it's peeling. If there are serious reasons for removing paint, it's always because the base is no longer intact or mistakes have been made, such as the protection used, which in this case is wax. We have also had the opportunity to show you how to recreate a patina. Remember, there is this video that you have to go and look for, but surely it is linked below so that you can see how we have reused the same or almost the same with the addition of salt technique from a few years ago to achieve a very similar result. And we show them together, right? Of course. And then we did a classic makeover to show you that with magic paint, you always get very, very modern results, even when there is already a colored base, even when there is already a style. You can completely change everything. I wonder if we can show you the nightstands in their final environment. Let's see if Marco and Ilaria invite us. Now I'll say goodbye because we're going to set the big pink cabinet, and then I hope to show you the set nightstands as well. This makeover is also finished, or rather half makeover because we'll set the other half in a bit. I placed this furniture here in my house next to the old vintage rose one, a piece I did more than 2.5 years ago. Actually, it is more unique because it is more textured. This was slightly smoother because there was no addition of salt at the time. We simply put the magic star. I hope you will also go and see the old tutorial. You will find it below because it is also nice to see the evolution, and then you can choose whether you like this more aged, more textured technique or the old, slightly lighter technique better. I really like it, especially because all over the surface I can see craquelure that is always different, always textured, but very natural. It really seems made like this. This piece of furniture seems original. Soon I will show you the 2 nightstands in the room that will host them, and you'll tell me if they're beautiful. I arrived in Turin at Marco and Ilaria's house, and I placed the nightstands. Ilaria hasn't seen them. Marco has, but often men pay less attention to detail. Instead, I wanted to show you the end of this video, this tutorial. In the room, because you know we had to study the nightstand's shade specifically so it would match the curtain, and it was not easy to do from afar. It was supposed to look good with the luxuriously velvety pink of the headboard, and with the curtain that happens to have a very particular shade of teal. So we tried reproducing the same shade. Obviously it'll be slightly different as this is a hanging curtain and the sunlight filtering through while this is a beautiful solid wood. But the flower colors perfectly match the headboard, the room shades, and the curtain colors. I am happy with it, and earlier I even put it in front of the curtain and it got lost. The nightstand was no longer visible. We were good, even from a distance. Please, if you make this kind of makeover where you have to reproduce colors, try to be as precise as possible, with several photographs and also with a print, because only in this way can you understand if the shade has been matched correctly. This was a big and difficult video, but I am happy to have done it because we showed you how to behave when you have to recolor a piece of furniture that has already been colored in the past. Above all, how to achieve more modern and contemporary finishes for a more modern and contemporary house or something much more classic, even add a patina like you saw earlier in my house. Write me in the comments what you think and subscribe to the channel. This is always very important. Just add an email and subscribe to the channel. See you at the next makeover. Bye.